Welcome back to another episode of Life After Corporate, my friends. And if you're new to our show, welcome home. This is where you get trusted advice for how to start, grow, and scale a services-based business. And today we're diving into a topic that is a mystery to many people, and that is SEO and digital marketing in the age of AI. And our guest today is Paige Wiese. All right, well, let's dive right in. You've seen a lot of evolution, and so I'm just curious.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's helped in two ways. I've seen a ton of evolution. I mean, using WordPress when it really wasn't the top platform because you couldn't do anything in it. You could blog,
Mhm.
and so I was trying to learn other programs, saw them kind of failing as I saw WordPress really picking up. So it allowed me to see that. SEO wasn't that big of a deal at the time. You didn't have that many businesses on to really have to be competing. So your techniques and strategies weren't necessarily as competitive as they are today and what that, space looks like. And it also really helped me grow my business at that time. I mean, a small blessing that a lot of people were coming out of the workforce and trying to start their own thing. And so, just by having like, yeah, the can-do attitude, we got this, it really helped. We took on a lot of those small businesses, a lot of them of like, let's just get you something going in a really organic approach too. I didn't have money coming out of anything. I was way too young to, have been able to save anything. So, I was able to get really strategic with marketing and allowed me then to look at clients that were trying to get started and go, how can we be strategic? What's another way? How can we work together? And maybe I train you a little bit on this. If you have the time, use that right now until you have the money. When you have the money, we'll go a different route. And so,
Mhm.
I was able to be more organic and bootstrapped with them than maybe some, larger agencies that have been around a long time that were like, hey, this is the only way that we're going to do this. This is the only way we really know how, this is our
Mhm.
model. So I think it really helped me take off and get the business going right off the bat by joining around that time.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And the entrepreneurship space has just exploded since then. If it was crowded then, look at it now. There are so many people who are choosing to leave corporate to start a coaching, consulting, or other services-based business. There's product-based businesses that are being launched all over the place. I'm in my co-working space today. We had a holiday marketplace yesterday, so I got to buy gifts from all my entrepreneurial sisters, but it's hard. My heart goes out to people really struggling. So what are some of the best practices from a digital marketing and SEO perspective that you think most early stage entrepreneurs miss?
Yeah, I think, it is. It's so hard because there's so many people joining. And the way, people bring that up to me, I say, but there's, hundreds of marketing agencies and we're still able to stand out. We're still able to, make our name, drive leads, have business, et cetera, and succeed. And so I try to like really, not let that, hold people back too much. And instead, let's look at what is something that's really like profiting you or what do you really enjoy doing? Let's just focus on ramping up those kind of services first. And then we can, and because the more specific we are in any type of marketing that we're doing, the better it's going to be. So, like if you're like, hey, I have a higher profit margin on this particular service, great, let's dive into that and let's get them in the
Mhm.
buying journey of it. Let's back them off of the educational side where they're still do I really, want this kind of coach or that kind of coach? Do I want a mid-size, product or a really small, cheaper side of the product, right? Let's get that out of them. Let's get to the spot where they already know what they want to purchase and dive
Mhm.
deeper. And that specific space really, really starts to clear up. I refrain from saying like niche. Yeah, I think niching is super helpful. If you're in like doing real estate stuff, you have to find a way to stand out. So, but
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be a specific niche. It can be an identifier. If you're a coach, what, is it your personality that kind of stands you out? Is it a thought model that you have that's different than somebody else? It's those sorts of things that people start to resonate with. And so,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be that you niche into a specific industry or specific, exact thing, but the more that you know where they're at in that journey, can definitely help us on a marketing front.
Yeah, there needs to be a specific problem that you solve. Sometimes people come to me and they're a solution in search of a problem. And, you need to have a door that you walk into with your ideal client. So of all the things you do, SEO I know is high on that list. let's talk about what are some of the things that people miss when it comes to implementing SEO. Because I know for me personally, like I've never even thought of it. Like I'm 10 years in business, like literally, I'm embarrassed to say this. I'm 10 years in business and I've never thought about the importance of SEO. And part of it's because of my belief that, oh, there's so much content out there. There's so many businesses out there that I'm never going to rank anyway.
Yeah, I think, it's true and it isn't. And it's like, again, what is it that you're wanting to rank under? And what does that look like? I'm similar. It took me a really long time to do SEO for Cheering Digital because I didn't want to just get a bunch of phone calls of people price shopping. So I just retrained. I was like, you know what? I'd rather like build the relationships, make the connections, do the hard work. I had more time at the time anyway. Let me do that and build more organic relationships. And I'm not, not just calling me up for a price. And sometimes we do that with, plumbers or something where it's like, there's no way. It's just so competitive and they've been in business for 25 years. We're not going to outrank them. They're putting in so much money. What do we do? And so, one is just kind of start with the basics. When we make a new site live, we look at getting your robots file in place, making sure you do have a site map. Did we submit the site map to Google so they know to crawl it? I know these are technical terms, but like just little things, right? That like as you walk through making sure you claim Google My Business. A lot of clients don't. That goes a long ways, whether it's service or location, still having that claim does hold weight. It does help you rank a little bit more. Generating reviews is part of SEO. And I get that it's not always easy, but ask and put it in your process. And those are kind of some of the initial first steps, right? Of like, how do we just start to be found at least and compete? After that, we start looking at, are you looking to, get a service specifically ranking, or are you trying to be more of a thought leader, coach, and speaker, what that looks like? Do we want to go more content marketing and boost the SEO that way? Or, do we want to look at the actual services and products that you're offering and go through a more organic way with your actual website pages that currently exist? So there's, two ways that people don't always realize is that content marketing, or we've seen clients come to us, I'm in a blog. Okay, great. Like what's the, objective here? And they miss the SEO component. If you're not already optimizing your website or you're not doing anything to just naturally try to increase a page rank somewhere and you're blogging, you're just really wasting time. They really do need to go hand in hand because that's how your blogs are going to start ranking then, is because you've optimized the site in general, not just because you put a well-optimized blog on your site and then all of a sudden it's number one, right? Like, no, the search engines don't even know the site exists in general, let alone this random blog lost in the middle of your site someplace. And so, also not overlooking that if that's a model you're trying to go.
Yeah, that's so important. And I always feel this love-hate relationship with SEO titles. And so since our first conversation with you, we brought you into one of our high-end mastermind programs. And I started talking to my team about SEO, and my podcast producer has always been on top of it, but I've always poo-pooed it like, oh, that's not a hook. Like that is not a sexy title for a show. And so what is the balance between, attracting attention to you by having, a really good hook that stops the scroll, draws attention, and then having something that is ranking a little bit higher on the SEO search terms?
Yeah, it's actually a really great question. I was looking at some podcasts the other day and I was scrolling through and I was like, none of these actually tell me what this is about, right? It might be like we have this guest on and it's like, I don't know the guest, but the story's probably really cool. Like, do I take a risk and click or what do I do? So, and actually it's just like going through podcasts. You can also just type in pretty much anything. So we were kind of talking about this leading up to, and maybe I'll jump us to it a little bit, is just how people are searching. They're no longer going directly 100% to Google for their searches. And so use your podcast titles and descriptions in that same capacity, is that people are looking for answers, information, something they don't know. And that's what the podcasts are for typically, right? So go after that in your titles, because That's what they want, is the answer to a question. And so it doesn't have to be sexy. It doesn't have to be this, great hook that gets them in. The hook is answering their question. And if you're going to do that in the podcast, they're going to click in and listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question is, so I was driving and I tuned in to this YouTube channel, and it was Gary V, who was giving a keynote speech to a bunch of like plumbers, electricians, people in the brick and mortar services space. And the question came up about SEO, and he said, in the age of AI, like how you rank on Google isn't going to matter so much. So how is AI changing the landscape, not only of SEO, but of digital marketing in general? I know it's a big question. Let's start teasing it.
Yeah, it matters and it doesn't, right? Like AI is going after like browsing all of the search results, and for the most part looking for a consensus. What is, most of the results coming back to? Or also what they're looking for though is what is the most hit and like read? How long is someone actually staying on that page reading that answer, instead of going to the page and then bouncing back off like, oh no, that didn't answer it. And so that really is what they're doing. And in AI, when you go to like a Google search at the top and do your search, you'll see the responses now are starting to come in pretty consistently on AI, results. And they are picking and choosing from different sites. And so it's not just like they just took a snippet of content from one particular site. You're seeing that they are using, different websites to pull that information. But SEO still matters, because the only way you're going to be found in that is if you're still optimizing for search engines and AI to find that information. And so, I think it's something that we don't want to give up on. And at the same time, it does make it harder and harder. When you do a Google search, you don't need to click any at the time. You're like, yep, that's my answer. Great. What's the next search I'm trying to do? And so, but for those that don't want the quick answer, they want to know more, then getting into how do I show up then in those organic search results right below it. But yeah, to just be like, oh, I don't want to focus on SEO at all because AI is taking over. That's how you get found, though. That's how they know to your site in general, and to even include you in, I guess, to have a seat at the table, if you will, to even have a chance to participate.
So SEO is required to have a seat at the AI search engine table, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, a good way to say it.
Yeah, love it. Love it. How do you see AI impacting other digital marketing initiatives? There's a love-hate relationship with AI for content marketing. Some say, it strips out all the juice, all the originality of your content. It's easy to spot AI created content versus original content. What's your take on that, Paige? How are you seeing it do good? And then where do you see the drawbacks?
Yeah, absolutely. We, have seen all sorts, and we do all sorts of marketing efforts. So we really like to keep our pulse on what's trending, what's new. And that's kind of a reason that we have it niched, is how can we pull the various pieces of what's working maybe for one industry and try it in another that hasn't really been tried yet. So, we do like to stay at the forefront of what is going on, new technologies, et cetera. And, I think Google or AI is right in the middle of that for us. We have been doing this and seeing the adaptation within like Google Ads for a really long time, and it's still not there. We've seen it in, image creation and people trying to have their social posts created by AI, and it's still not there. You might get close, but it's not perfect. And so, and yes, I think in a few years we'll be there. So it's always good to keep your pulse on it. But, trying to have your Google Ads copy written by AI, that's not what AI is ready for yet. They're not there for a sales tactic. They're not there for aggressive sales pitches or how to engage. They're really, I think, AI content right this moment is best for producing information. So a blog, helping with some sort of responses to certain questions, but not necessarily fully ready for how do we use it as an actual successful marketing tool. So we haven't at Tree Ring Digital, we haven't really dived fully into let's use it for every single thing that we can get our hands on. We still do manual Google Ads and review them. We still create our own artwork and review it. and make sure that it is in fact falling in line with the messaging of the clients and the objective that we're trying to achieve. That in mind, it's a hard one because we sell content as a service. So we sell website copy, we sell blogs. And so when we talk to clients, yeah, we are getting more pushback of like, oh no, I can actually do blogs now. Like I have no problem doing content creation. I'm just going to go to ChatGPT and they'll write the blogs for me. And I'm like,
Mm.
yes and no, like you still have an opinion. Again, AI is pulling a summary of everyone's thought, right? Or a fact because they can trace it back to the exact specific source depending on what you're searching. But I actually want to know how you feel. I want to know like what that person's take on as far as like how do you handle some of these, business growth pieces if I'm looking for a business coach? I know there's financial coaches and there's some that are sales coaches. I want to know your sales philosophy. Does that align with what I want to offer? So just going and, doing simple stuff, I don't really feel is the right way. Yes, you'll get content out there, but it's not going to be that organic, authentic piece that the users actually are looking for when building trust and relationship with you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're positioning yourself as a thought leader, and I think, it's you have to. Like, if you're not bringing thought leadership to the table and leading people with a different way of thinking about an old problem or presenting a paradigm shift that they haven't thought of before, then you're missing out on standing out and you're missing out on being memorable and you're really missing out on that connection. And also AI is not emotional, even when you ask it to be more emotional, and people respond to that emotional connection when you can use content to reflect what someone's been thinking, when they're saying, "Oh my God, are you reading my diary?" or "Get out of my head." That's the response that we want to have with people. And I haven't found AI to do that. I've found that, I can upload, I have my own content management GPT. It's got my ideal client profile in it. It's got transcripts from my solo podcast episodes, from high converting email campaigns, all of that stuff. And even then, it's still not that great when I ask it to create a draft. So I think, I agree with you. We're a long way from, using AI in thought leadership. I think it's the antithesis of thought leadership right now. What are some of the other things that you're seeing? We were talking ahead of time that some of the other things that business owners are missing out on in treating their marketing assets in the right way. You presented some really compelling thoughts to me that I had never thought about before, which is usual in a conversation with you, Paige.
I mean, we've seen a lot of it, right? And this, what else would have we seen consistently? And as much as we hear SEO, Google Ads, whatever, consistently the phone calls we get from clients are, "I'm locked out. My website's down. I don't know. What do you mean you need access to my Google My Business? I don't know if that's ever even been set up," right? So what gets really complicated along the way as you're going through your business journey is there's so many assets. There's so many little details to pay attention to. And, who's helping you set those up? We're in a world now where VAs are more accessible than they've ever been. People being able to maximize interns and bring stuff on. We've had nonprofits do that. Absolutely. I am an advocate for using every resource at your fingertips. However, what we see then is the clients going, "Hey, an old business owner set that up and we never got the login details, and now GoDaddy won't hand over the domain name even though we own it. And so how do we go about this process?" And so we'll consult on that. Or, before we working with the client and they just came to us for one thing. "Can you help me with our website?" Sure. But that leads into so much more. Or then we start asking questions. Well, what we ask, is a website converting? So we'll be like, "Well, have you looked at your analytics by chance? Like, have we reviewed that at all?" And they're like, "Yeah, I think that's installed on our site. Absolutely." I'm like, "Great. Can you send me the logins?" "No, we have no idea who has it." All of that historical data is lost. And so we either find it or we start over and start gathering new. But that is the priceless information on your website is what are they actually doing? If we're optimizing for SEO, are we being found organically? Are the right pages being found organically? Right? So we're really working more and more with clients on like brand asset management, digital asset diligence, that sort of stuff, to kind of help them with how do we start collecting these things either along the journey and know that we've identified about 200 data asset points that people should know
Mhm.
along the way. Yeah. And it's really, really important that those things happen because it could be how quick can I resolve your website issue? I can resolve most issues fairly quickly as long as I have the right information in my hands, right? But if we have to figure out who actually has the login details, who has the two-factor code, when was the credit card, whose credit card's on file with something, it could take us 3 days, to hunt that
Mhm.
down. And so, because usually our point contact isn't really then the one that has, they don't have that information. Otherwise, you would have probably already had it. So to go find that person in an office or hunt down a VA from a couple years ago, and we've just see that it can really impact how much you're spending on either in your business trying to find and do all this, or what is it going to cost you to redo something? Is it redoing a social page that you had for years? Is it, redoing your analytic data that we probably could have just gotten by with changing content on a page instead of the whole redesign? But if we don't
Mhm.
know what's converting, we got to start somewhere. So yeah, that's a piece that we've really seen clients there's so many they're just losing track of. And it's costing them money by not paying attention to.
Yeah, that is so critical and such an eye opener in our conversation. You mentioned Google My Business a couple of times. Like many of the clients I work with are solopreneurs. They work from home. So it doesn't make sense for them to have a Google business page. And is it necessary?
I would still do your best to claim it. Google is right on the fence right this moment of like slowly backing off service providers from, if they don't have a physical location, from like the Google My Business listings. I would still try to claim it while you like, absolutely. I think for us, if the client comes and says, "Hey, I can't find my website on Google. If you just built it, what's going on?" Typically because we haven't claimed the Google My Business. If we claim that, it's really the trigger of like that really kicks and amps up into gear that business exists. So if someone is typing in that business name or kind of close, maybe off just a tiny bit, Google usually will put that there instead of some other search result. And
Mhm.
it's just a visual thing. So I'm a visual learner. I'm a visual person. I really don't like reading. I'm not great at it. So when you give me all these search results and I need to figure out which one's Yelp, which one's, Home Advisor, which one's whatever it looks like, and then I get this box on the side and it's exactly what I'm looking for, I'm not looking at anything else. I'm going straight to the box to see what I'm looking like, say, yes, that's the business I was looking for in my search. So it's also going to help you cut through some of that clutter right away. And then in addition to, I always say the reviews are the other piece of that. When I'm trying to decide, which service provider to use, or is this business legitimate? I think people overlook it because they're like, I'm referral based. Okay,
Mhm.
great. I'm still going to go to Google and type in your business name and see what others are saying, right? And it doesn't matter what it's solopreneur, hair salon, it doesn't matter what it is. That is the natural next step after referral. Even if they call you first, they're still going to go. And so you want to make sure that when they see that you're building trust with them right off the bat with those reviews too, because if they can't find you and it's a review, I'm going to tell you right now, I will go a completely different direction. Or referral. I
Mhm.
mean, if I does not really matter sometimes to me how much weight is in that referral if I can't find you online. And I kind of honestly like side tip, same thing on Facebook. If you have your
Mhm.
personal profile and like we connect on Facebook, and I don't see your business there, I'm probably not going to hire you. I don't really care how strong the recommendation is because to me, it shows that you're not wanting to claim that is what you do as a profession and that is what you like you're expert at. Right. And so, but also I can't find out more about you if I can't click that link to go over to your website because it was a referral from a personal friend and that's how I got it. So, yeah, I mean, I think you need to be visible in those capacities, but also claiming it, even if it is just a solopreneur, a coach, a consultant, a service provider, whatever, because that's what people are going to find you. So,
I understand why people hire you, Paige, because it is complicated and there's so much that we don't know and that we're not considering. You just brought up the Facebook page, LinkedIn pages as well. LinkedIn tends to rank pretty well on search.
Mhm.
So, having a strong LinkedIn presence, I guess, would be important as well. Let's talk about what you see coming for 2025. Have you established any digital marketing predictions yet for the coming year or things that we have to watch out for?
I say watch out for trying so hard to do it on your own. I think we've spent the last few years really embracing hiring other people to do tasks that make sense, right?
Mhm.
And I think with the evolution of AI, I think we're going to see more business owners try to take that back on and say, I can do it. I'm just going to use AI to do it. Don't worry, I've got this. But don't free your time up. Continue to use the experts, continue to use those that, have been doing this regularly, because that's the only way that you're going to really be able to excel in what that looks like. There's a reason there's experts there. And yes, someone built I'm building my own business. I have worn every hat. But that's what allows me to speak on it is I've done
Mhm.
graphic design. So I understand the quirks, the inner workings, what we need for that. But don't don't go back to being a jack of everything. Like we really need to keep those experts in those areas and let the expert decide if AI is what should be used in that piece. And, don't try to set up your Google ads being like, it's okay, Google's got me halfway through this. Even keyword research isn't correct yet. And so, no, like that's kind of where I say is I think that we're going to start seeing, especially as we hear phone calls of like, I've got this, or, oh, maybe it's a little higher than we were wanting to spend for such and such, which is the normal rate. It's, not high, it's
Mhm.
great. But they just are always trying to find that shortcut in the marketing. And then they're
Mhm.
frustrated that it's not working. And so use your tools and resources and the experts that are, doing it daily and let them decide if AI is fully ready yet.
Yeah, I think, we need to, as small business owners, we need to really look at ROE, return on effort. If I, if I do this myself without the expertise and I'm kind of doing a half-assed job of it, and not getting the return that I would get, it's almost like if I had $10,000 to invest in a solution and then get 10x that investment, that would be a much better path than avoiding spending the 10 grand up front and not getting any of the benefit down the road. So I think we need to really look at digital marketing as an investment because it's how people discover you. It's how people make decisions to buy from you.
Mm,
And it is so foundational and so critical. And AI is never going to replace thought leadership.
right.
I mean, by its very definition. And I think those people that embrace that truth and really work on how they're standing out in a crowded market, an increasingly crowded market. It's just getting noisy. I don't care how many social channels come up. Everyone's like now talking about this new one. I don't even remember the name of it. Blue something,
The blue sky.
Blue Sky. And, people are now moving over to Substack, to Threads, and I think that's all in a quest to stand out in a smaller space. And so thought leadership isn't dead. And I think those who embrace that fact will enjoy more success in 2025. It sounds like you believe the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, and keep in mind, like you can jump, but if people aren't there yet, why are we jumping so fast? Right. There was
Mhm.
one that came out middle of COVID. It was, more audio recordings. I think it wasn't quite as deep as podcasts, but different than like the content. I can't remember what the platform was called, but that's partially it's not around really much, right? Not everything is on. So don't just jump to everything and flock. You're wasting time. Where do you need to be? Where's your actual ideal client? Focused there. Don't overwhelm yourself being on Facebook if that's not where your audience is. If it is, spend all your time there and get them in, get involved in groups, do the things. So some of these new ones too that people are jumping to, give it some time, let it settle in first, let it wrap up, let others do the promotion, and then decide if it's worth you jumping into.
Sounds great. Paige, any final words for our listeners and before we close out the show?
Yeah, I mean, make smart decisions. Let AI, work where it's going to help and take some of the hard thinking off your plate, but know why. Be intentional in what you're doing in any effort that you're doing. Pay attention to the things that will make the biggest impact. Don't get overwhelmed trying to do everything because you really don't need to. Just focus on a couple things really well.
Yeah, that's great advice. And how can people get in touch with you, learn more about working with you? What's the best way to keep in touch?
Yeah, you can visit us at our website, truingdigital.com, and find out more there. And then also on our LinkedIn, with Paige Wiese, just following that is where most of the content goes for that leadership, content creation, etc. So finding me on LinkedIn, I love connecting, love sharing information, and just always happy to answer just, random questions that has got someone stumped. So those are the two best places to find us.
That sounds great. That's Tree Ring Digital, TREE, .com. And definitely will connect with you on LinkedIn and follow you. Love everything that you've had to say. You've given some solid advice to my clients and now the listeners of Life After Corporate. Appreciate you, Paige.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's always fun to talk with you.
All right, my friends, that's it for now. Hopefully you got some big nuggets of insight in this conversation that you can apply. And for sure, if you'd like to optimize your digital marketing, get in touch with Paige. Clearly, she's on top of it all and brilliant at what she does. So that's it for now, my friends. We'll see you next time on Life After Corporate. Be well.